Hi everyone, over to you, John.
Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone, to our final discussion today. And this is the Digital Manufacturing Matters, Lessons Learned from Amy's Kitchen. As a reminder, for a point of housekeeping, make sure that you are putting your questions in the Q&A tab at any point throughout the session. I'll be moderating those, and then I'll be able to do that when we do our Q&A session. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Kim Corona from Amy's Kitchen and Derek Torrey from Salt Flats. Over to you.
Thanks, John, and thank you everybody for joining. Really excited to be here with Kim Corona, who is the Marketing Creative Project Manager for Amy's Kitchen. And my name is Derek Torrey. I'm a Senior Consultant for Salt Flats. And we're here to talk about lessons learned from Amy's Kitchen as they've moved through MarTech, Digital Asset Management, and Product Information Management. And so with that, a quick look at our agenda today. We'll hear a little bit about the state of things at Amy's Kitchen as Kim joined. We'll look at 3 lessons learned. And then we're going to do some Q&A, and we'll talk about kind of key takeaways at the very end. And we've got a lot to get through, so we're going to try to go on pace, but not too quick. And so with that, Kim, why don't you take a look and talk about Amy's for the folks who don't already have Amy's in their freezer, like I do.
I was going to say, I hope some of you have Amy's in your freezer and in your pantry on the shelves there. But we are one of the original organic manufacturing food producers, and we've been around since 1987. We do have a generous lineup of frozen foods as well as soups. We do offer all sorts of variations on dietary lifestyles. So we have low in sodium, we have gluten-free, we have vegan, the whole gamut. So I hope if you haven't tried any of it, you will. So.
And it's really something because when I talk to folks, and other clients and the other consultants that I work with at Salt Flats, everyone I know from Amy's is passionate about, healthy food for people. It's not a job. It's like everyone there is like part of the movement. It feels like it's pretty wonderful.
We're all fans.
Can't say that about every place you go to work.
True.
So again, my name is Derek Torrey with Salt Flats, and at Salt Flats, we really help discover, create, and launch new ways of thinking, working, and growing to create lasting value. And you can distill that down into projects like what we did with Amy's Kitchen. So about 2 years ago, I met Kim Corona and the rest of the team at Amy's, and I helped them analyze their marketing stack, the technology they were using, and come up with about a 18 to 2-year roadmap. And one of the big projects we came out of that with was that Amy's needed to get a PIM. At the time, they had a DAM, and Amy and Kim's going to talk about that. But that's the type of projects we do at Salt Flats for our customers. We help them with marketing technology, digital asset management, product information management, with a real strong emphasis on metadata and taxonomy development. So really happy to be here. And so Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about the state of things when you got to Amy's, so that we can kind of give a baseline for the audience of where you were in terms of maturity when you started.
So the creative team is pretty small but mighty, and we sit within a pretty good mid-sized organization of about 2,800 people. We do all of our in-house creative work. We're just now getting to a growth point where we're bringing on agencies, but we have a pretty wide array of people we're dealing with, from designers to production artists, and you see the whole list there. And like I said, we are just starting to we're growing enough at this point. We are starting to bring on more partners, and we've seen just change within our organization that's encouraged that as well. But we are still at this point where we're trying to keep everything in-house. So we have a big volume of work. And when I started, the whole team was trying to do everything. Everybody did everything. The production artists handled packaging as well as whatever marketing tasks. We've now organized a little bit differently. We're pretty well divided, where we have a crew of people handling the marketing tasks, and then we have a crew that's handling the packaging. But files were really scattered when I started. They brought me on originally as a digital asset manager because files were scattered. Everything was a mess. We were doing things very conventionally. Everything was in paper dockets. All the marketing projects was on paper. All of the packaging projects were on paper. Files were getting moved around. The pandemic really forced a quick change. We were in the process of evolving. We were just starting to develop a workflow tool for our packaging, which I'll talk about more later. So the pandemic really forced us to move away from paper. People didn't think they could work from home, and we had to learn to. So this pandemic has really improved our situation quickly because we have brought on some new technology even during this pandemic. So
yeah, it's amazing to when you first are introduced to a new workflow, a new operation. Very often in my role, people say, "I know we're so far behind. You know, we use this document here and we use Excel here, and it's amazing." Very rarely is anyone very far behind. It's, you know, I think people think that everyone else is ahead, and it's often not the case.
Yeah, I mean, when I interviewed, I was told that the entire organization was run on Excel spreadsheets and smart sheets, and that wasn't far from the truth. So
No.
our creative assets were all over the place, and it took me a few months just to kind of assess everything before I could even start trying to determine what was really needed. So
yeah. And by the way, on the chat, we've got people who love the Indian food, the burritos, and the mac and cheese are the big winners so far. So,
thank you.
So let's jump into it then. Our first lesson, dam planning requires a broad view. So it's a pretty ubiquitous title there, right? But let's talk a little bit about a little fun here, the ingredients, and kind of set the stage for this lesson, Kim, with kind of how the dam got started, and where it went, and then we'll jump to what we learned.
Yeah, I mean, when I came on, I started having, like, most of my conversations were with people from the IT team, and there were just a few key people. They understood the need for a dam, but it was just the two teams volleying back and forth for the most part. We weren't really talking to many groups outside of the two teams, so we definitely had to learn from that, because it touches a much larger group than just marketing and just IT. IT really mostly supports it. And marketing, yes, we're a huge customer of a dam, but there's a lot more players that need access to a dam than just marketing.
I was amazed when we started working, as an example, you know, the recipe engineers and the food scientists that are coming up with the new products, what information they needed. That was new to me, and I've been doing it a long time. Sales, their access, I understood that, but the way they needed access, I thought was kind of unique.
Yeah, so I just connected with someone from engineering today, you know, trying to guide him to the dam.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So and it's from all outlets. So
those new teams, when they come on, they bring new needs, new use cases, and changes to what you thought, right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it is a moving target to a degree. So, and you know, the great thing about having a dam in place is that it does start to drive itself after a while, but it also evolves, because when new players come on, they might not even know about it. So trying to keep it socialized is a task. So every time we introduce it to someone new, there is a quick, you know, intro call with them. So we do feel like the tool is very intuitive, but we don't feel like it needs, you know, a lengthy intro. So
okay, so we get in, we start with marketing and IT, we start to broaden the horizon, start to meet new people, new teams, new needs. The need for governance starts to show up here, because as you start to make changes to how things are done or introduce new teams into the system, maybe you break something else or find something you should have done differently. So governance, again, big issue. So
Yep.
the recipe. So what do we learn from starting with marketing and IT? Well, we learned to look more broadly across the organization, right? As early in the upstream, as we like to say, right? As early in the process as possible, all the way down to downstream, which in your case is, you know, the people who are selling the products to the wholesalers and the retailers. And a couple of notes here on this in terms of you have to, our experience is you plan broadly, right? You plan by getting requirements and objectives across the scope, but then you implement based on value and complexity. So even though you've found out all the needs, you may implement to address the most acute pain points, right? And deliver the most value. So planning is broad, but implementation should be a bit more narrow. And then on complexity,
we spent a long time implementing because we wanted to make sure we didn't, because our data was such a mess. We couldn't just hand, you know, the provider, which is Binder, we couldn't hand them a hard drive to upload content into our system. So it was very piecemeal, and we knew if it was piecemeal and we only had a handful of assets in the system, and we tried to introduce that to people weren't going to find what they needed there. So we couldn't socialize the tool until there was a good chunk of content in there.
Sure, that's really important. That initial migration actually can uncover a lot of issues at first. And here, the second point here on the recipe is to begin with your metadata model and your data lifecycle rather than your asset lifecycle. Even though you're doing a digital asset management system, and it seems like what you should start with is where are my images at, and where are my videos, and how do my packages move through? Actually, below that level, the data and how that information is managed, who creates it, who can edit it, who benefits from it. That's really, I think, where to start. And I think that you learned that as well as more teams hold on. And then
our data had zero to little metadata within it. Every bit of metadata had to be built into it as we were migrating. So, and you really need to think about that as you're migrating.
And actually during implementation and just ahead of implementation, as you're analyzing the processes and talking to people and learning about the data, that's the time to start governance, because in our experience, and I think you agreed, you start to find the people who should be involved in governance during that kind of information, you know, gathering.
I never would have imagined someone from the packaging engineering side was going to need access to this stuff, but it's very useful for people even at that level. And there's pieces of metadata that's super important to them within this.
Yeah.
And as we develop it into a PIM, that really crosses over. So
okay, so that was the first lesson, right? So broad planning, implement based on pain and value and complexity, start governance right off the bat, and start with data rather than assets when you start to figure out how to do this. Second lesson here, one size workflow does not fit all. So this has to do not with the dam, but actually with workflow management, which is another very relevant topic in this Henry Stewart event and for manufacturing and the other verticals as well. So tell us a little bit about how this got started. I believe it was with packaging is what kind of got this whole thing going, right?
Packaging drove, you know, the biggest need for it, even though it's important for every type of project we're driving throughout this team. But packaging drove it, and it was an easy target because it was a well-defined workflow that we had. But the people, the biggest stakeholders initially, they wanted it to be an all-in-one solution. So we were targeting all-in-one DAM and workflow tools. And I was hesitant from the get-go, and we learned quickly that this one size does not fit all approach is a big key, because the way the packaging projects run are well defined. They're very stagnant. They run the same, you know, the same process every project. It
I
might
bet
be
the folks from packaging might not say that. They might say their hair's on fire all the time, right?
right. I mean, if it's a new, the differences are if it's a new product, it's different than if it's, making changes to an existing one. Those are the
Sure.
biggest things. If the FDA decides there's a whole new regulation that needs to be applied, then yeah, people's hair starts to get on fire. We sometimes build up our team a little bit to conquer those sorts of problems, but marketing projects are way different. They're totally dynamic, and they don't follow the same path every time. A print project is much different than a digital project.
Sure.
A campaign is lots of different projects within it. Our internal requests are much different. 2 weeks ago, I got pulled in for a bunch of pieces that were needed. It's basically a campaign for an event we're participating in. And our hair is on fire right now because this event is in almost 2 weeks and we're still ordering collateral needed for this event. So we've had hardly any time to really give this the creative, justice it needs, but we're making it happen. And that's just what we have to do. So we roll with a lot of punches in the marketing side. And so does packaging, not to discount that.
Yeah, and the thing is it's not, so packaging may be the longest, most complex workflow, touching all areas of the business, from manufacturing to packaging specs to legal and everyone. But that doesn't mean it covers every point, right? Just because it's the most complex, it may not be as fast or as ad hoc. Your marketing projects may touch different team members each time, and have, one project may have a video and an email and printed aspects. So another interesting thing here is what I thought was really interesting is because packaging was so complex and mature, the vendor that was proposing to solve the packaging workflow also said, well, hey, not only can we do packaging, we can all do all of your marketing, right?
Yeah.
We can do it all. We're not a packaging vendor. We're a marketing operations vendor.
Yeah.
And on paper, I think that was true, but maybe not necessarily in reality.
Yeah, and I mean, the tool we started with wasn't robust enough for marketing or for packaging projects. The tool that is robust enough for packaging projects is now too robust for marketing projects, and it's not agile enough. So, okay,
so the ingredients were there, and what do we end up with? What are our lesson or our recipe? So, and this was a big point of yours, to begin with clear SOPs or standard operating procedures, RASTs, and pain points, right? We got some illustrations there of that top right illustration. Oh, I love that. I've shared that with our team at Salt Flats, and that's just a little bit of the information workflow. But you really do need to know how people work, which teams are involved. It's not enough to say we have a workflow. You have a workflow tool. It must work. It's much more involved than that. And to your point, as we were discussing this, do not assume the most complex use case will work for the broader organization. And that packaging versus marketing, I think that's one example. But we're at Salt Flats, we're working with another client today, a retail grocer, has a really involved traditional print workflow for creating weekly flyers. And it's like packaging. It happens every week. It's very involved. A lot of people are touched, many moving parts. And the workflow necessary to solve that may not be the best workflow for the photo studio or for an email campaign. And so it's, as the headline says, right? One size does not always fit all. And then this last point, this came from our conversations, giving users clear and measurable value so they know why you're asking them to change, right? We're asking you to change because we're hoping to save you time. We're hoping to save you steps. We're hoping to save you errors.
The more people you can make feel like they're a part of these decisions being made, the more you're going to get user adoption, and user adoption is really key. It's
almost the biggest key thing, right? It if your success is, does this system generate value for the operation, which hopefully that's what the success should be, then adoption is, like I think your number one metric to start, right? Later down the road, it's probably other things, but at the start, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right. So next lesson, PIM or DAM, where to start? And we're going to actually have a survey, not quite yet, but just in a moment, we're going to have a survey and ask the audience where they would start. But tell us a little bit about where you started. It looks like you started with the DAM at Amy's, a binder DAM. And
Yep.
if you look off to the right of the illustration, we've got DAM and PIM, and I'm trying to differentiate why you go with one versus the other. But tell us a little bit about, you went with the DAM first at Amy's, response, reaction.
I feel like the DAM was the lowest hanging fruit somehow for the marketing team.
Sure.
And it was because people couldn't find what they needed within the team, and when files needed to be changed, it was a big mess. And so it was a little bit more easy to digest, as I'll use a food pun, to organize, to organize content for a DAM. It takes a little less, understanding about all of the pieces needed. A PIM is much more complex. It needs a lot more content and data to get into it. And we're just starting that process now. And it's a whole different can of worms to deal with. So I think because I'm such a visual person, I wasn't going to argue that DAM was a good way to start with this. So we had, an easier approach starting with a DAM. So
Sure. And I think that's true. I think DAMs are less complex, not to minimize them.
Right.
You can go wrong in lots of ways with a DAM, but I think they're a bit less complex. And I think a DAM provider may not like this. I think it takes a little less discipline to do a DAM than it does a PIM.
And it's often a little less investment. So you can usually get the organization to buy into that a little bit easier. So
I do think that a PIM has a potential for a broader ROI.
100%.
It is interesting though that the impact of a DAM is easier to see. Like you can see the fact that assets are correct and they're getting done more quickly and they're out in market. It's a little harder to see when a PIM is working well. It's hard to see when it's not, when you don't have one. When it's working well, it's harder to see. So I reached out to a whole bunch of our clients, some vendors in the PIM space and in the DAM space, some other MarTech experts that I know and work off to the sides, probably some people that are here at Henry Stewart. And most people came back and said, all things being equal, right? A PIM would be where they would start. And you have to kind of qualify it to say all things being equal, because if your asset workflow is just putting assets into market that you don't have the rights for and you're getting sued, like you got to stop that. So it's quite possible that Dan would be right in terms of pain points to your operation, but all things being equal, most people would go with the PIM. So this would be a chance we're going to ask the audience, what do you think? So let's take a quick survey to the audience. What would you do first? Would you do a DAM or would you do a PIM?
I love live surveys. What will the audience say? They've been very responsive all day.
It's great. It's nice to have you here, John. It's been a good session so far today.
Excellent session. Deliciously good. I was just say, Kim.
Right.
Deliciously good.
Great.
All right, everybody. So this is your time to vote. Oh, here they go. Oh, all right. Keep on voting. Keep on voting. Oh, I love the real time live.
That's pretty cool. Boy, damn it's getting it big time. It was even there for a moment.
Oh.
Okay, I think we'll end it at the bottom. I think we'll end it at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
It is almost there. We got Dan by 70%, Tim by 30. That's interesting. I think we will. What do you say,
That
John?
surprise you? Derek and Kim, are you surprised? How do you respond to
A
those?
little bit.
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I actually think the market, I think people know more about dams than they do PIMs today as well. And so dam seems a more approachable point.
Yeah,
Okay,
there was an
so-
interesting comment in the chat section. Someone said, Kim actually said, we need a "it depends" answer.
Yeah,
And I think that's
sorry.
quite clever.
I was gonna put other or like why, but I thought it would take too long. So we got the results were 72% for the dam and 27% for the PIM. So what do we think here? It's interesting. We don't think either, right? We actually think you should start with your data strategy first, because your PIM and your dam are going to benefit tremendously from taking a look at your data, your metadata, your data model, your data lifecycle. And for a manufacturer or CPG, that's going to be your product data, right? Mapping that across your business, right, from start to finish. It's going to touch different people, different teams, different systems, different databases, different documents. Use cases for how that data is used, who's working with it, who's benefiting from it. This is a key. I noted develop a flexible working data model. I on purpose did not say develop a master data model, because that whole concept of master data management gets frightening. It sounds like something I should bring in an MIT engineer with and spend 6 months on, and when they're done, they're going to tell me what my master data model is. So I said a working data model, right? Because you need to be able to iterate, and it needs to be flexible. Your business is going to change, systems are going to change, market's going to change, pandemics are going to happen, and start data governance. So our recommendation, based on conversations with Amy's and many of our other clients, is start with data first, and you're going to make both PIM and DAM go much, much better.
Yep. And just start.
That was your
thing.
Jim was like, just
it's really
start.
It's really vital to these organizations. It's only going to help your company, and you might not even have everybody you need on your team to do it, but there are some people on your team that can at least start the whole thing. So
all right, so then we've got a couple of key takeaways at the end here, and then we're going to hit the questions. So it's not just about you. Talk to the teams around you, the team right next to you, the team next to them, the team upstairs, the team on a different Zoom, right? And find out how they work, what their requirements are. And this is really important. A friend of mine pointed this out this morning. What are their goals? What are they trying to get done? They're trying to work faster. They're trying to work smarter. They're trying to hit more channels. They're trying to do more products, trying to decrease errors. What are their goals? So you have to talk to a wide group of people during the planning stage.
You can't really talk to too few people, too many people. So
yeah, agreed.
Cast a very wide net.
And I don't want to add 4 key takeaways, but make that collaborative and collective. Don't go off by yourself into a room, close the door, and talk to somebody. Do that, but then bring everybody together. We use things called collective intelligence sessions and a tool called Miro, and bringing people together comes up much more robust and disruptive ideas. Second key takeaway, start with your data. Kind of beating this drum again. I said it on the last slide. Start with your data before you do PIM or DAM. Both of them will go better. And then Kim, you want to hit this third one? I thought that you really pointed this out well.
You have to understand, what everyone is needing. Packaging has different needs than marketing, and you have to understand. You have to put your most detecting eye on as you're surveying tools, because these guys are in sales that work for these software providers, and this isn't to ding any of those people doing that work, but they want to sell you their tool, and their tool is going to solve your problem. So you have to really understand what your needs are as you go into these demos, because they'll sell you the stars and the moon, and that their solution is going to solve all your problems. And it's really not until you start to dive into your needs that you understand like what tool is really going to work for you. And don't be afraid to bring on, third parties like Derek's company to help, because these guys understand this stuff, better. And not everybody can afford to bring on tools like theirs, solutions like theirs, but if you can, it can be well worth it.
So we've got one question that came through right now, and it's from Deanna or Dina. I hope I pronounced one of those right. With no metadata to start, how did you find your information to add to the system? Did you start using controlled vocabularies at the start? This is, I'm going to put this one to you, Kim. So you start with a DAM, you don't have anything. Where'd you get your data?
You pretty much start where you're at. I started a little bit looking at how things were organized on the servers that we had. The servers went beyond that. We had contact sheets, printed contact sheets that were housed in 3-ring binders. That was our DAM. And I was looking at how all of that was organized. Organizing things by date was really easy because that is a piece of metadata that comes with every file. But it was also looking at what the things what the obvious pieces were that people were going to search for. Product name, UPC, keywords were easy, but I like to get clever with keywords because sometimes we start our product names with organic, not always, sometimes organic falls later in it. So I jumble them all up. So it's a mixed bag of how people can find what they need regardless. So, and when we get into, showing people how to use the tool, that metadata becomes filtering capabilities. So the better you've got that metadata in those places, the easier it is for people to filter and find what they're looking for. So understand what people are going to be looking for and how.
Sure. Yeah. And Dina asked specifically, did you start with controlled vocabularies when you rolled out your DAM?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yep.
And
So
they help tremendously.
Yep.
I'm not sure if, John, did you see any other questions come through?
The big questions were, can we get a copy of this presentation? And the answer is absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do think we are just about out of time. So before I close out, please everyone join me in thanking Amy's Kitchen to be here today. I think, Kim, you have made a whole bunch of people very hungry around the world right now by talking about your product. Many people from London to all over North America are very hungry right now. But this is where, this is where Henry Stewart does so well, by having a case study like this to talk about both the content supply chain and the manufacturing supply chain. This is why we shine. And a lot of people have taken a lot away from this presentation to know where they start. And I think even the fact that Henry Stewart is doing a DAM and PIB webinar in the next few weeks speaks to the fact that, the industry is changing. A lot of people are looking at other different things. So Kim, Derek, very well done. Excellent presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, this is the end of DAM for Manufacturing as part of DAM Industry Week 2022. So just remember, and questions were asked, that yes, all the session recordings from today's event are now accessible in the agenda tab. So if you want to see something, go over there and find them. We invite you to catch up virtually with old friends and make some new ones. Grab a drink, raise a glass to a great event in the lounge tab, so you can go over there. And thanks to everyone for joining us today, and to our sponsors for a great event. Remember, by registering for DAM Industry Week 2022, you have access to all the sessions across all the week for Industry Week. So again, join us tomorrow for DAM for Healthcare, and see you there. So everyone, happy Thursday. Very well done. Excellent presentations today from beginning to end. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Kim, thanks so much for participating. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Absolutely. Yep.
And thank
Thank
you for
you.
everyone that jumped in. John, thanks so much.